you're interested in these lattices that have reflections, and these lattices are relating to vector algebras called Lie algebras. So if you're interested in the ones that have these finite set of reflections, where it just reflects less than an infinity of times, and there's some important mathematical reasons why that's important, which we don't have to get into now, but we can say, all right, well, presuming this is important, that you're looking at the lattices where the reflections don't just explode or deviate toward infinity, you can ask a question. You can say, well, what is the lattice and the associated algebra where it doesn't explode into infinity? Like, what's the largest one? Yeah, what is the highest dimensional lattice that doesn't do that? The lattices that don't do that are related to algebras that are called conceptual algebras. The largest conceptual Lie algebra is the E8 Lie algebra, and that's associated with the lattice, which is the lattice that is related to dense packing spheres in 8 dimensions. To infinity in terms of their reflections after 8 dimensions. 8 dimensions is the end of the road when it comes to this special and important mathematical quality of a finite number of reflections. And so algebraically, right, in the E8 Lie algebra, which is a vector algebra, this is very important for doing mathematical physics. And so in some sense, you could say that if you're focused on that important mathematical quality and you want the richest Lie algebra or associated lattice, you want to go with this 8-dimensional lattice or crystal correlated to the maximum sphere package 8 dimensions. It's associated with vector algebra.
Theory and beyond mere wishful thinking, you enter into the final phase of transformation, which is simply being the person that you prefer to be, without middle steps. You automatically then insert the very small notions that create your own reality anyway, according to preference, because they are who you are, who you desire to be. So because you already function this way, there is nothing really new to master or learn. Simply begin to allow yourself to consciously attract the knowledge, to begin to create your reality consciously according to preference. So in as much as you already create the circumstances of your life through, as I have said before, just deciding you are a particular way, trusting that you are a particular way, or having faith, or having complete conviction that you are a particular way, and then acting as though you trust you are that way. You can use your free will, you can use your preference, you can use your desire to decide anew, to decide according to preference. You do not truly have a momentum of being a certain way that you need to overcome. You create yourself discreetly right now, whenever it is. It is always right now. Right now. Even right now. Right now. Right now. Always. That right now and your ability to absolutely make the decisions you do from what's available right now, the thing that is most representative of who you choose to be is your point of power itself. Is what tells you, well, if I can change right now, and I do change right now, that momentum is just an illusion. For if there were such a thing as momentum, it would go past right now. I would not be able to change right now. So either there is momentum, or you completely create in the moment. Now, more accurately, because you contain it all, both are true. And rather than allow them to overwhelm and confound you, look at this as choice. For if both are true, it is not a matter of proving one or the other. It is a matter of choosing. Do I wish there to be a momentum that I have to overcome, which creates the necessity for perpetuating a path and the effect from that path, the locomotive train of that path going right past this particular moment? Or do I choose to understand that right now is the only moment that I function from? And if I choose, by the way, to buy into the past having an effect, I am doing so right now. And it is not actually the past that has an effect, it is me saying right now that the past has an effect. Right now, I will therefore assume that the future must be a result of that past. That small notion, this small understanding, is why you create the apparency that the past has anything to do with right now, because you decide, you just decide, right now, my present is a result of my past, and therefore my future is dictated by needing to reconcile that past. But you are doing so right now. You are just deciding, you are trusting in that decision, and then you act completely according to that trust. And you perpetuate the apparency of a momentum. You perpetuate the apparency of a past having anything to do with now, and the next now, and the next now. The past does not drift from now to now. You recreate each now. And that is your point of power. That very small, minute understanding. Because once you begin to understand the sensibility of what I am saying, you will understand that right now, you can choose something else. You can, all right, get off of that train. Therefore, right now, you can decide who you prefer to be. Right now, you can decide who you desire to be. And right now, you can decide to be that person. I decide to be this. Now, as I have said, when you already create your reality, you make a decision. You trust in that decision, and you act according to the trust in that decision. Should you choose right now to be the person that you desire, and understand that you can trust that decision, everything begins to look different from quote-unquote this point forward, for each now, successive now, because you no longer look at it as the older version of you would look at it. If you trust that you have changed, you will look at it from the changed self. Perhaps at first you will strive to do so, you will reach to do so, you will perhaps need to perform an effort to do so, but you will always be able to do, you will always be able to see each situation that you used to label from your older perspective, from the new perspective, if you simply trust that you are the changed self. Now, as I have said, it is always the action that creates the reality. So once you trust that you have changed, you will act according to that trust. And those actions will be far different than the older decision, the older trust, and the older action. So you cannot help but get a different result using the exact same mechanism you have always used. Decision, trust, action. This never do we insist it. Would not be so presumptuous. It is up to you. But it is an option. When you decide I have changed, when you trust, or say you trust that I have changed, but you act the same old way, you are not acting as though you trust you have changed, and you are perpetuating the older version of yourself. And then generally saying, well, I'm doing that because of the so-called past, but the older you, or the older version of you, is the only one who would even think about a past having anything to do with the present. And basically using, by the way, the past as an excuse, thinking that you are using it to accelerate, but actually using it as an excuse to perpetuate the things you do not prefer. Because you have this complete free will in the moment, you always have the choice not to act, not to move, until you align yourself to your new decision and to your new trust. But ultimately nothing will change until you move. Therefore you can theorize. You can
and I will try to be the sun, and just because somebody big has to operate the light. And let's see what the phases of Venus would be like. So could we have an Earth person? Thank you. This is an excellent Earth person. Could you please stand by, let's say, a few steps up, by that camera, and we will be eventually viewing things on the television screen from the point of view of that camera and that Earth person. And now could we have a Venus person? Venus is a planet completely covered with clouds, although it's a very nasty place on its surface. And so we have this completely clean sphere representing Venus. And could you just stay there for just one moment? And what I'm going to do is point this light representing the sun at Venus. Now, if this were a real sun, it would be shining in all directions, of course, but then everybody in the audience would be blinded by the light from this, and you couldn't see what was happening here. So I'm going to simply follow the motion of Venus around the sun as seen from the Earth. Now, the Earth really ought to be moving around the sun also, but that would be a little awkward. The Earth would have to step over people's knees and so on. So we're having the Earth stationary, but the point will still be made. So now, Venus, would you please slowly circle the sun? You can do it a little faster, actually. It takes Venus 225 days to go around, but we will do it somewhat faster than that. And now notice how we are going into half moon, half Venus, crescent Venus, and now Venus is passing by the sun, and now the crescent comes around again, and Venus is now nicely walking backwards into a half Venus, and now growing, the phase grows, and soon we'll be back near full Venus. Thank you very much, Miss Venus. Thank you very much, Miss Earth. Now, that kind of motion is exactly what Galileo found Venus to do when he looked at it with the first telescope several hundred years ago. And Galileo found that the waxing and waning, the changing from crescent to full back to crescent of Venus did exactly what the sun-centered hypothesis predicted, and not at all what the Earth-centered hypothesis predicted. That's one of the lines of evidence that the Earth is not the center. Now, if we actually look at a picture of Venus, we see that it does go through phases. This is a telescopic view of Venus. I'll just show you this so you will believe me if I say Venus goes through phases. Actually, the Earth also goes through phases. And in this picture, there's a lovely picture of the Earth as seen from the Moon. The Moon is in the foreground, and the crescent above the Moon is the Earth as seen from the Moon, and it goes through phases for just the same reason that Venus or the Moon does, as seen from the Earth. Now, this is the geometry of the solar system, but we haven't said anything about scale. How big is the solar system? There are lots of ways of finding out, the simplest of which is by radar. You send a radar pulse to a planet, it hits the planet, comes back, you measure how long it took, you know how fast radio or light travels. It travels at the speed of light. And, right, that was easy. 186,000 miles a second, 300,000 kilometers a second. And so half of the transit time gives you the distance. And in this way, we can determine, for example, that the Earth is about 150 million kilometers, 93 million miles from the Sun. I hear an echo, which I'm not supposed to hear quite yet. And what we'd like to do is to give a sense of the scale of the solar system by having someone in the audience say something like, let's say, hello universe, seems an innocuous enough remark, and let us see how long it takes for that remark to get to various places, starting with the Moon. Who would like to say hello to the universe? That's good. Lots of people would like to say hello to the universe. So would we. That's why we sent the Voyager record. Could you please say hello, universe?
Hello, universe. Hello, universe.
Now, that was a 1 1/4 second time delay, which is, by accident, just how long it takes for light or radio to travel from the Earth to the Moon. Now, we have here a diagram which has just been started out to indicate the rate of progress of a signal sent by radio from the Earth into space. So here's the orbit of the Earth. We will see how long it takes for that signal to get to the orbits of the other planets, Venus, Mercury, the two interior planets, Mars, the next planet out, here's the Sun, and Jupiter and Saturn will be out here. And so in the next few minutes, we will follow the progress of a radio signal, and this is the fastest that anything can travel. So what we are going to see is the fastest travel time that is possible. Now, what I would like to do now is to, while we're waiting for the lights to get to other planets, to begin a discussion of a particular planet. We would like to study in some depth a strange and exotic world. Let us imagine that we know nothing about this world. We have no prior information about it. And we approach it with absolutely open minds. We have no prejudices about whether it's inhabited or not, whether there are volcanoes or rivers, or if there are inhabitants, what they look like. Maybe they are all squamous, blue ovoids with 30 tentacles and float 1 meter above the ground. Or perhaps that's what we look like. Perhaps we're from some other planet, let us say. And we will examine this distant and exotic world, which by accident is the Earth. And first, we will look at it from telescopes from our world, and it will be little, we will not see much detail. And then we will come closer and closer and look with we just heard another hello universe because our radio signal has just gotten to Venus. And we will shortly be interrupted by another hello universe when it gets to Mars. It's just reminding us of the progress of our radio message. We will look mostly with photographs. First from our planet, as I said, then we will put cameras on imaginary spacecraft which will fly by the Earth, then go into orbit about the Earth, and then land on the Earth and look around and see.
Telling people, now we need a sense of global responsibility. Think, 6 million humanity, equal. just think oneself is actually foolish. Every hour sort of move, suppose bring happy life. No one deliberately carrying some work, some action in order to bring problem or suffering. So everybody is moving with the intention to bring happier days. But then because just think oneself and don't care about other, so they, because of that kind of motivation, our action become then unrealistic, wrong action. As a result, these unwanted problems essentially created by ourselves. So therefore, we really need the healthy, proper mental attitude. I think that's very important. I think we pay adequate sort of attention about material development, about material values. Compare that, we pay much less attention about our inner value, about our mind. So therefore, now I think out of our past experience in 20th century, we invented many advanced things in technology with the help of science development. So, but sometimes some technology bring more fear, more anxiety. So now, judging from our experience which we gained in 20th century, now we are in 21st century. I think out of our past experience, now we have to think, what is wrong? Essentially, not working. Test, okay now. So what I'm saying, I forget now. Oh, there's matter. It's matter. No mind. Isn't it? So the matter utilized by human being, that means ultimately matter used by mind. Something like that, isn't it? And then the very matter of happiness, joyfulness, is kind of mind.
Mental state.
Mental state, mental feeling. And similarly, pains and, of course, this I mentioned this morning. So apologize, I repeat that. So the pains and sadness, these things also, mental feeling. So recently in Dharamsala, on our science meeting, I mentioned it's quite sort of strange. The very basis of pains and pleasure, that's mind. Now, we're much sort of eager to gain more because of the pleasure, more joyfulness, and we try as much as we can reduce pains. But the pains and pleasure itself is mental sort of
states.
Mental states. But we neglect about what is mind. Obviously, I think many people, have same experience. With facility, good facility of material. But meantime, as a person, very unhappy person. I notice some my friend, not Richard Blum. This is some very rich, I think, very rich, but as a person, very unhappy person. What's wrong? Plenty of money. And with money, and usually, certainly, more friend. But actually, it is questionable. These friends are truly friend of human being or friend
of the person.
The friend to person or friend to money. That's questionable. In any way, usually you see the richer people or have some more friend like that. But in spite of that, this person, very unhappy person. So then, sometimes these people are still seeking comfort out of money, out of power. It's wrong. If they pay more attention about our inner value, inner science, then most probably they may find more effective way to face their unhappiness. What do you think? Some sense? Thank you. I think this at this point, I think I can tell my own experience. The very time, the time of my birth, 1935.
And I will try to be the sun, and just because somebody big has to operate the light. And let's see what the phases of Venus would be like. So could we have an Earth person? Thank you. This is an excellent Earth person. Could you please stand by, let's say, a few steps up, by that camera, and we will be eventually viewing things on the television screen from the point of view of that camera and that Earth person. And now could we have a Venus person? Venus is a planet completely covered with clouds, although it's a very nasty place on its surface. And so we have this completely clean sphere representing Venus. And could you just stay there for just one moment? And what I'm going to do is point this light representing the sun at Venus. Now, if this were a real sun, it would be shining in all directions, of course, but then everybody in the audience would be blinded by the light from this, and you couldn't see what was happening here. So I'm going to simply follow the motion of Venus around the sun as seen from the Earth. Now, the Earth really ought to be moving around the sun also, but that would be a little awkward. The Earth would have to step over people's knees and so on.
So at that time, about to start a Nazi sort of power in Europe, in Germany. Then soon, Second World War start. Then Korean War, Vietnam War, like that. So
we're having the Earth stationary, but the point can still be made. So now, Venus, could you please slowly circle the sun? You can do it a little faster, actually. It takes Venus 225 days to go around, but we will do it somewhat faster than that.
There is an opportunity.
And now notice how we are going into half moon, half Venus crescent Venus. And now Venus is passing by the Sun. And now the crescent comes around again.